9. Joseph Kennedy. Most people would agree that nobody deserves to die just for stealing. But in the mind of 67-year-old Joseph Lloyd Kennedy II from Okmulgee, Oklahoma, this severe punishment made perfect sense. He quickly became a suspect after the dismembered bodies of 4 men were discovered in a river near the scrapyard he owned back in 2022. Surveillance footage and cell phone location data put Kennedy at the location, where authorities believe the victims were killed, at the exact time they think the murders happened. Prosecutors revealed that there was also DNA evidence linking him to the crime. Perhaps the most damning argument against Kennedy, though, is his alleged confession to a friend that he shot the men because they were stealing from him. According to court documents, Kennedy said he simply lost it and started shooting before cutting the bodies up afterward. In a police interview earlier on in the case, the suspect admitted that he thought the victims were stealing, but claimed he had no contact with them. Kennedy was finally picked up by police in Florida for driving a stolen pickup truck and extradited back to Oklahoma. He now faces 4 counts of premeditated first-degree murder and is behind bars on a $10 million bond. 8. Crystal Sinclair. In 2016, a 29-year-old Florida woman named Crystal Sinclair was frustrated with how long it was taking to bring her alleged stalker to justice. One night, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office got word that Sinclair was on the way to 65-year-old John Casameno's home with a handgun and plans to confront him herself. Sheriff's deputies and officers with the DeLand Police Department started searching for Sinclair and stationed themselves outside Casameno's home. After a failed attempt at pulling her over, they used spike strips to stop her car. Sinclair allegedly spat on, swore at, and kicked her arresting officers. She was charged with fleeing and eluding police, battery on a law enforcement agent, resisting an officer with violence, as well as drug-related crimes. John Casameno told the Daytona Beach News Journal that he knew Sinclair but wasn't stalking her at all. Despite his claims, records revealed that he had been accused of stalking others in the past. He said that they met 4 months earlier when he sold her a boat, and that Sinclair had worked for his boat-selling business for a short period. According to Casameno, his most recent contact with the woman happened weeks before her arrest, when he texted her to ask where he should drop off some of her belongings. It's unclear what the end result of this case was. Hopefully, whoever was at fault was punished. 7. Salih Hafiz. In recent years, Lebanon has descended into a full-blown financial crisis, putting about 80% of its population below the poverty line and leaving many people hungry and in need of relief. Things have gotten so bad that some banks reportedly blocked locals from accessing their own money. Determined to get her hands on the $13,000 she had in a savings account, a woman named Salih Hafiz and some friends held up a bank in Beirut towards the end of 2022. She briefly took everyone inside the bank hostage with what she later claimed was just a toy gun, then left with her hard-earned money. Around the same time, a man carried out a similar hold-up situation in the mountain city of Alais before turning himself into the police. A month earlier, another individual had to demand a bank withdrawal at gunpoint in order to get money from his account so he could pay for his sick father's medical treatment. Before going into hiding, Hafiz claimed she went through with the heist for a similar reason: to help pay for her sister, who has cancer. She told the press that she had tried to withdraw money 2 days earlier. After several weeks on the run, Hafiz surrendered. She was released on bail and hit with a 6-month travel ban while her case proceeded in court. Since then, the holdups haven't stopped, and unlike most crimes, they're being met with widespread public praise. After all, it's hard to have a problem with someone demanding what's rightfully theirs to take, especially when so many can relate to the suffering driving these people to such extreme measures. 6. Battered wife saves herself. A Louisiana housewife who went well out of her way to make her husband happy found herself in danger when he suddenly snapped one day in 2017. By then, the man had a history of verbally abusing his wife, but the woman never expected him to actually kick her, throw things at her, or pee on her like he did that fateful day. She said that her spouse got angry after she refused to back him up during a fight he picked at a local gas station. Things got ugly as soon as the couple got home. They went back to the station to discuss the fight, at which point the woman begged a man who was putting gas in his truck to drive her somewhere safe. When she saw her husband leave the gas station, she panicked, got into the truck, and drove it to the Baton Rouge Police Department herself. Her husband chased after her in his car. Outside the station, he got out of his vehicle and held onto the truck in an attempt to pull his wife out. In her desperation to get away from him, the woman smashed through the department's gate and kept driving until she saw an officer in the middle of a traffic stop. While she drove over to them, her husband fell off the truck and was fatally run over. Authorities decided not to charge the wife, who was left with both physical injuries and emotional trauma after the devastating ordeal. 5. Reese Davies and Tara McKenna. In early 2019, Reese Davies got into a fight of sorts with a man named Calum Holden and ended up with a stab wound. In a bid for revenge, Davies and his girlfriend, Tara McKenna, went after Holden and his lover, Jessica Williams, by chasing after them with a machete through the English village of Thornton Cleveleys. The victims were getting out of their car when Davies and McKenna came up. Davies kicked the side view mirror and shouted that Holden was a dead man. Williams quickly sped off in the vehicle while Holden escaped to his mother's house on foot, where he called the police and told Williams to come home. When the young woman got out of the car, McKenna approached and threatened her again. As soon as Holden came out from inside his mom's house, Davies chased after him with the machete. In the meantime, McKenna started swinging at Williams with a makeshift weapon, a piece of wood with nails in it. They fell to the ground and began wrestling. McKenna and Davies both punched Williams in the head. Soon, bystanders noticed the scene and came over to help, causing the perpetrators to flee the scene. Davies and McKenna claimed the victims made the story up, but the court ruled otherwise. The judge imposed suspended sentences while cautioning the pair that they only narrowly avoided jail time. 4. Roger and Anthony Bilodeau. In early 2020, 39-year-old Jacob Sansom and his uncle, 57-year-old Maurice Cardinal, were out moose hunting in Glendon, Alberta, Canada, when they briefly pulled into the driveway of a home where Roger Bilodeau and his son Joseph lived. Concerned that the truck was being driven by thieves who wanted to rob them, Roger and Joseph got into their own car and chased after it, reaching nearly 100 miles an hour, 161 kilometers per hour during the chase. In the middle of the pursuit, Roger called his elder son, Anthony, who lived next door, and instructed him to bring over a gun. Roger pulled in front of the truck he was after and stopped, forcing the pickup to stop as well. Surveillance footage later showed that the interactions between the two parties lasted less than 30 seconds before Anthony shot Cardinal and Sansom, who died on the road. When questioned by investigators, the Bilodeaus denied having any knowledge or involvement in the shooting. After discovering contrary evidence, authorities charged Roger and Anthony with murder. The men argued in court that they acted in self-defense, but the prosecution maintained that Cardinal and Sansom were the ones who had to defend themselves from danger. Anthony was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life with a minimum of 13 years, and Roger is serving a 10-year sentence for manslaughter. 3. Matthew Golden. Early one morning in 2018, authorities in Iowa put out an Amber Alert for 2 missing children in a silver Hyundai Sonata with Illinois license plates. While driving down Interstate 80, a driver named Matthew Golden spotted a white van with Florida plates and somehow mistook it for the Amber Alert vehicle. Instead of reporting the sighting to the police and trailing the vehicle from a safe distance, which is what people should do in response to Amber Alerts, Golden allegedly rammed the white van repeatedly. According to law enforcement, Golden then approached the van with his personal gun and ordered commands before shooting at the vehicle twice. He soon learned how big of a mistake he made. The driver of the van was a Florida resident named T.C. Smith, who was simply on his way to visit family in Illinois. Altoona Police Chief Greg Stallman told local station WHO 13 that nothing about Golden's response to the alert was correct or justified. Inside his vehicle, officers found 2 more handguns, as well as some marijuana. Golden reportedly stripped down to his underwear before his arrest, but police aren't sure why. They concluded that he was not under the influence at the time. He was charged with possessing an illegal substance, intimidation, and 2 counts of assault. 2. Billy McGillicuddy. In recent years, community members in the Canadian village of McAdam have faced rising issues with vandalism, thefts, and other property crimes. Residents became so frustrated that when 41-year-old Billy McGillicuddy took the problem into his own hands and got arrested, dozens of people went to court in his support, including the village's mayor. The incident happened in June 2022, when McGillicuddy approached an alleged meth dealer named Blake Scott at his friend's house and hit the man with a metal bat. McGillicuddy apparently suspected Scott of being responsible for some of the recent crimes in the area, and he also accused the man of inappropriately looking at his daughter. Scott later told police that he wanted to clear up the misunderstanding, so he contacted a mutual friend of his and McGillicuddy's named Dwayne Gardner, who invited him over that day. When Scott arrived, he was ordered to sit in a chair, and Gardner allegedly pointed a sawed-off shotgun at him. McGillicuddy then came and roughed Scott up, throwing him to the ground and kneeing him before assaulting him with a chair. He told Scott to strip naked and get into the back of his truck. After taking his clothes off, Scott decided to make a run for it and went to a neighbor who called the police. Police charged McGillicuddy in connection with the incident, and the community was quick to rally around him, believing he was left with no choice but to take matters into his own hands. Scott admitted that he had previously served time for breaking and entering, but that it was in his past. He said he wasn't doing anything wrong leading up to the encounter with McGillicuddy. He also insisted that he had simply nodded hello to McGillicuddy's daughter while walking along a path, but that he was just being polite and didn't say or do anything overly inappropriate. The court sentenced McGillicuddy to 18 months in jail for unlawful confinement and assault with a weapon. And talks with local leaders and law enforcement about how to get crime under control are reportedly still happening. 1. Jack Martinelli and Christopher Azar. In 2014, when a group of friends saw a man punch a woman in Melbourne, Australia early one morning, they immediately went to check on her before moving her out of the street. They went after her alleged attacker, Ashley Rafati, and what started as a verbal confrontation quickly escalated to physical blows. Rafati swung and missed Jack Martinelli, who punched him back, knocking him to the ground. Martinelli's friend, Christopher Azar, then kicked Rafati after he fell. The beating continued, with Martinelli and Azar apparently unaware Rafati had lost consciousness. He survived but was left hard of hearing with a lengthy recovery period, so police arrested the suspects. In court, Martinelli's lawyer insisted his client was deeply sorry for what he described as a bad error of judgment in an emotionally charged environment. The attorney also pointed out how Martinelli apologized to Rafati without blaming alcohol for his behavior, like people have been known to do after these types of encounters in the past. Azar also expressed remorse for his behavior. The judge acknowledged that Rafati threw the first punch, but the defendant's reaction to it was beyond unacceptable. She also mentioned how Martinelli and Azar would have likely been hailed as heroes for helping the young woman if only they hadn't gone on to commit a brutal assault. The men managed to avoid convictions on the contingency of staying out of legal trouble for 2 years, paying fines, and going to a positive lifestyle course. Thanks for watching. Would you rather serve a year in jail for vigilante justice with overwhelming support from the public, Would you rather serve a year in jail for vigilante justice with overwhelming support from the public, or avoid a jail sentence but face widespread criticism for your actions? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.